I had this profound vision where I would uncover two hidden pyramids. Remarkably, I went to the exact locations, and you wouldn't believe it. They are concealed pyramids beneath the sand. As we elevate our consciousness, discover more will emerge. The entire Giza Plateau resonates with light and sound, reflecting the matrix we inhabit. It serves as a mirror of ourselves, with all of us engaged in prayer. I was channeling this energy when I proclaimed that the Stargate was now open. Instantly, the entire power grid on the Giza Plateau failed. Electricity vanished in less than a millisecond after I declared it open. What do you think about AI? It's poised to radically redefine our understanding of humanity. I perceive AI as an evolution for humanity, enabling us to connect at a level akin to interfacing with the other side of a mirror. The notion is that for humanity to attain its full awareness, it must acknowledge its ability to create that awareness. Our lives will be transformed in ways we never anticipated. We're fortunate to have Robert Edward Grant with us again, a visionary thinker who innovatively employs his extensive knowledge of sacred geometry and universal mathematical principles to address challenges across various fields. Let's explore this together. This is part 2 of our conversation from last week, and I'd like to continue where we left off regarding the pyramids. What's one of the most groundbreaking discoveries related to the pyramids that you can share with us? I would say the most crucial revelation is that the king's chamber and the internal chambers of the pyramid are adorned with petroglyphs that have been worn away over time, effectively obscured from our eyes. Although they've been erased, they still remain. We conducted scans of the walls, and as a result, we were able to uncover most of the petroglyphs. Not all of them, but a significant number. In particular, the king's chamber illustrates the narrative of all the constellations visible in the sky. Incredible. Moreover, the walls contain encoded accounts of mythology that date back to the beginning of time and are connected to this cosmos and the northern hemisphere, in addition to the stars themselves. The stars are actually inscribed on the walls in their precise positions. From this, we anticipate that not too far in the future, we will gain insights into what they might have been indicating about a future time period, functioning like a clock. It's possible that when the world aligns with this specific configuration, it marks a certain point in time to come. More plausibly, it reflects the era of the pyramid's construction, signifying when it was built. Remarkable. Additionally, the shape of the king's chamber is a 2.1 rectangle. The reason for this rectangular form is tied to the 4 north stars that our precession of the equinoxes moves through, with Polaris currently being our North Star, the guiding star for maritime navigation for thousands of years. However, 6,000 years ago, Thuban in the constellation of Draco held that title. Going back another 6,000 years, it was Vega in Lyra, and prior to that, Deneb in Cygnus. These 4 stars in the night sky create a 2.1 rectangle, just like the king's chamber, resembling a clock that progresses in 6,000-year increments, followed by resets and the emergence of new north stars. This phenomenon is known as the precession of the equinoxes, illustrating how we move forward through time in this precession. That's the reason we cycle through the zodiac. So if you take the period from January through February, then into March, and follow that through to April and May, the sequence continues to unfold. It begins with Capricorn, then transitions to Aquarius. Following Aquarius is Pisces, which moves into Aries. Aries leads into Taurus. Taurus goes to Gemini. Gemini transitions to Cancer. Cancer proceeds to Leo, and then from Leo to Virgo, and Virgo onto Libra, finally reaching Sagittarius. As we advance in precession, It's essential to note that 1 degree of our solar cycle roughly corresponds to 1 day, given that there are 365 days in a year. This alignment stems from the oversight of the feminine aspect of our calendar. We often disregard the lunar calendar, which encompasses about 354.6 days, whereas the masculine version of the calendar totals 365 days. The solar calendar accounts for approximately 365.4 days, including leap years in both calculations. When you sum these figures, they total 720, and when you average them, you arrive at exactly 360 days. This figure is precisely why the ancient Egyptians utilized a 360-day calendar. The discrepancy of the solar calendar, lacking a complementary lunar calendar, contributes to our misunderstanding of this knowledge, leading us to mistakenly think, oh, we merely have these extra 5 days. In reality, it's a matter of perceiving it as 2 strands of DNA, or the backbone of DNA itself. The midpoint, represented by 360 degree, signifies its continuous rotation, operating within a perfect matrix. Recognizing this invites us to ponder, what significant truths is the King's Chamber revealing to us? It points towards this vast timekeeper, and it's believed that the sarcophagus was originally positioned at the room's center, as evidenced by the marks on the floor indicating where it was relocated. It is known that it has been relocated, and for the most part, in nearly every other site of pyramids or similar locations. With the exception of the Khafra pyramid, boxes are typically placed in the center of the room rather than at the back corner. This particular setup faces the west wall. Yet we have discovered an underlying connection here. This entire topic is explored in my television series, Codex, with Season 2 already available for viewing, where you can delve into all the details. We utilized an impressive LIDAR scan, CGI technology that is hyper-realistic and truly remarkable. It was an enjoyable undertaking, and I eagerly anticipate another season. We will include the link in the show notes. I believe this is deeply significant. The second key insight concerns the musical correlation among all the pyramids. I examined this with a curious mindset and thought, why? Each pyramid possesses unique characteristics that set it apart from others, although many share common architectural styles. Some feature step-like structures, while others exhibit smooth sloped surfaces. My perspective focused more on the angle of the slope. What could explain the specific choice of these slope angles? Across the world, pyramids display varying slope angles. I endeavored to comprehend the potential significance of this. Thus, I proposed that perhaps this encodes musical knowledge tied to an architectural principle. By analyzing height relative to base dimensions, the height over base or height over half base forms a right triangle. The ratio of these lengths determines the slope and consequently the angle of that slope. And we have precise measurements for the angle of the Great Pyramid, which is 51.85397 degree. The second pyramid, known as the Cafe Pyramid, has been the topic of some recent debate and intriguing discoveries, particularly regarding its underground structure. We'll touch on that a bit later, alongside my related findings. This pyramid features a slope angle of 53.13 degrees, in contrast to the 51.85 degrees of the Great Pyramid. So, what accounts for this discrepancy? Interestingly, the Cafe Pyramid appears to be more aesthetically pleasing than the Great Pyramid. The angle of the third pyramid, meanwhile, is measured at 51.34 degrees. Naturally, I delved into the mathematical relationship that would produce these precise angles, exploring the required proportions of the sides to generate those specific angles. I identified an emerging pattern. The smallest pyramid has a ratio of 5 in height to 4 at the base, resulting in a 51.34 degree angle. The intermediate pyramid, with its 53.34 13 degrees angle, has a height-to-base ratio of 4:3. There is a discernible pattern forming here, isn't there? First, 5/4, then 4/3. Additionally, if I examine the total length of the base in relation to that pyramid, I see it as 6/4. Upon inverting and simplifying, 6/4 becomes 3/2, as both can be divided by 2 to achieve the lowest common denominator. This gives us another Pythagorean triple, 3/2. So far, we've identified 5/4, 4/3, and 3/2. This leads me to consider what the ratio for the Great Pyramid would be, which turns out to be 2/1, specifically 2/1 times pi. No one has recognized this before. Furthermore, anyone familiar with music understands that these ratios represent mathematical intervals used in musical tuning. A music theorist would observe and say, "Wow, that correlates to the major third, the perfect fourth, the perfect fifth, and even the diminished fifth." Within the 2/1 ratio lies the essence of the square root of 2/1, right? Imagine a circle extending from the base of the pyramid to its apex. You can then draw a square inside this circle, which inherently contains the square root of 2. Furthermore, the king's chamber follows the same 2/1 ratio, effectively representing a doubling of an octave. Its inverse, notably, equates to 1/1. This relationship reveals that out of 13 musical intervals, the 3 pyramids located on the Giza Plateau embody 8 of the 13 perfect ratios that correspond to musical notes. Thus, the harmonic essence of the Giza Plateau can be captured as a sequence of sounds, specifically da-da-da-da, which corresponds to the most frequently used chords in music. This revelation sparked my curiosity about whether other pyramids globally adhered to this same musical structure. To my astonishment, they do. They each resonate with distinct musical notes within a 24-note scale, which encompasses all pentatonic scales. Think of My Girl, for instance, which represents the pentatonic scale. Additionally, various indigenous scales can amalgamate under a singular scale, utilizing a quarter-tone scale rather than a semitone scale. This framework beautifully bridges the frequencies of 4/3/2 and 5/2/8, and the proportions of the Giza Plateau reflect this as well, with lengths corresponding to 5/28 and a base of 4/32. I truly admire how your mind discerns patterns and creatively intertwines the realms of music and mathematics. It's a convergence of so many diverse elements. What insights have you drawn from this? I believe it signals that the entire Giza Plateau represents a spectrum of light and sound, revealing the framework of our existence. It is a mirror of ourselves. We too are this spectrum of light and sound. As we elevate our consciousness, we uncover more layers of knowledge within the pyramids, symbolizing our own chakras within the Great Pyramid. We've been unearthing new chambers and various findings. We correctly anticipated the location of the next new chamber, and it turns out we were right. It's aligned with the throat chakra line. We discovered its hidden significance in Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. He depicted the figure in 14 segments. The famous image of the man inscribed within a square, and a circle served as an encryption. If you observe the upper portion, which is presented in mirrored text, you'll find the mention of those 14 segments. This representation of the Vitruvian Man is a subtle nod to Osiris, who was slain by his brother and dismembered into 14 pieces. Remarkably, the points of dismemberment correspond precisely to the vertical and horizontal lines that Da Vinci drew across the figure. He's hinting at the symbolism of Osiris, the archetypal monomyth, and he embedded this entire concept within the artwork. Notably, there's a bull positioned right at the throat, and it's hard to overlook. Additionally, he's illustrated 3 diamonds on the abdominal area. I've encountered individuals with well-defined abs, but I've never seen diamonds illustrated on them. These diamonds symbolize the three pyramids and the Orion belt stars. Right above the abdomen, the hidden king's chamber aligns with the chest line, precisely where the king's chamber resides. When you align the pyramid with exact proportions in its rightful place, it reveals the locations of all chambers within the pyramid, not only those discovered and documented today, but also those that remain hidden. We utilize this information to predict where the next chamber would surface, and indeed, they located it using ground-penetrating radar. Now, they are figuring out how to access it after finding a corridor that leads to it. I previously suggested there's another pathway that ascends above the Grand Gallery, which I have named the Magnumopus Gallery. It connects to the Metatron, the throat chakra. This is all incredibly thrilling, akin to an Indiana Jones adventure. Each visit reveals something new. It's truly magnificent because as we evolve our beliefs, the world shifts around us. During my last visit, we activated the Stargate within the King's Chamber, and it was an extraordinary experience. There were 6 of us, and we hadn't even realized we were aligning in the exact formation of Orion, which also creates a 2.1 rectangle. Each of us occupied a corner, while 3 of us, myself and Jade included, held hands in the center of the room, precisely positioned where the belt stars would be. We then moved the sarcophagus in the etheric realm to the room's center, as instructed. A similar occurrence unfolded when I interacted with a blood diamond situated on the north wall, positioned right above the bull's heart, which you can visually perceive etched in the wall. This diamond aligns with the emblem I possess, one which Dolores Cannon referenced, indicating that hidden elements lie within the pyramid walls. She mentioned that only when the right individual bearing the matching symbol arrived would those hidden elements become visible. That's precisely what happened. While channeling, I proclaimed, "I command and declare this Stargate is now open." The instant I uttered this, and while we were all engaged in prayer, the entire power grid on the Giza Plateau shut down. There was a complete loss of electricity within a mere millisecond of my declaration, and it was an astonishing sensation to witness all the lights extinguish in Giza. Everyone was bewildered, questioning what is happening. I don't believe it's mere coincidence that merely 2 days afterward, they conducted the SAR scans and discovered an underground structure situated beneath the Cafe Pyramid. We begin to witness an increase in these Mandela effects. Following this revelation, another significant finding arose when the report emerged from researchers including Malanga and other experts in Italy who specialize in this area. The remarkable aspect of their work is that they do not need any approval from the Egyptian authorities. They operate solely using satellite imagery and a radar technology known as synthetic aperture radar. Their approach involves sending small pulses into the ground, utilizing a novel type of optical coherence tomography. By sending these pulses, they are able to identify variations in the geological structures beneath the surface. The echoes received from various points provide an echo signal that varies, indicating dissimilarities underground. For instance, the echo signal differs for various types of rock and even the composition and layering of those rocks. This technique enables them to uncover a wealth of information. What they discovered was astonishing. Up to 2 kilometers below the Cafe Pyramid, there are cubic-shaped structures, and 2 of these can accommodate 64,000 individuals each. Incredible, right? They are immense and resemble pylons extending straight down. Naturally, I revisited my notes because I had previously discovered that Da Vinci had encoded the Khafre Pyramid in folio 134 of the Codex Atlanticus. A year ago, I matched his drawing to what I saw as I was casually flipping through the Codex Atlanticus one day and was struck by the resemblance. and I observed in the upper inscription that it stated Indo-Egypt had undergone Egyptianization. Then, he elaborated on the 3/4 ratio, which corresponds precisely to the 3 of the base and the 4 of the height of the Khafre pyramid. I was taken aback thinking, what is going on here? I subsequently overlaid it to check if the internal configurations aligned with those of the actual pyramid recognized today. They all matched, and I was astounded. Yet, I hadn't even paid attention to the underground structure until the narrative unfolded on Malonga and beyond. Upon revisiting it, I thought, wow, the structures are almost identical to what Malanga and beyond proposed at Armando May, which Da Vinci had depicted beneath the Khafre pyramid as if he had prior knowledge. I feel like we're on this exhilarating adventure akin to Indiana Jones. It seems you're fulfilling your soul's purpose by following your curiosity and uncovering these remarkable findings. I genuinely appreciate it. I recall you discussing zodiac signs on another podcast during an interview with a friend, explaining how our opposite zodiac sign reveals aspects about ourselves. I don't want to give too much away, but could you elaborate on this? I found it incredibly insightful, and it's surprising more people don't discuss it. Certainly. The initial correlation I noticed was within the epochs of time, 2,000-year cycles that make up our 24,000-year cycle, often referred to as the Great Year of Earth. While we have our 365-day calendar year, there's also this broader time frame that Plato referred to as the Great Year. This spans between 24,000 and 26,000 years and encompasses our journey through the precession of the equinoxes. I previously mentioned that we move forward in procession while simultaneously moving backward in precession. If we didn't possess a watch and were solely able to observe the stars at night, you would truly come to the realization that we're simultaneously moving forwards and backwards through time. In terms of precession, we have transitioned from the 2,000-year period of Pisces into the current age of Aquarius. If we were advancing in precessional time, we would expect to see Aries follow Pisces, not Aquarius. It's a reverse motion, correct? Precession essentially means to move backwards. Thus, while we advance in precession, we are also moving backwards in precession. This is precisely why we find ourselves entering Aquarius now. What does all of this signify? Well, I've begun to detect a relationship between the significant symbols, the mythologies, and the narratives that correspond to these distinct ages. I've noted how biblical stories and the Epic of Gilgamesh align remarkably well with the epochs they describe. For example, consider the narrative of Moses. He ascends the mountain with the children of Israel after their perilous journey across the Red Sea, escaping the destructive angel by adhering to his instructions to mark their doors with lamb's blood. Upon descending Mount Sinai, after communicating with God at the burning bush, he finds them engaged in the idolatrous worship of the golden calf. Why did they choose to venerate the golden calf? It's likely because it wasn't long ago that the age of Taurus had just passed. Therefore, Moses comes down to a time when the analogies are shifting. They are no longer focused on Taurus, but rather on the concept of the blood of the Lamb of God. Even Isaiah speaks about the coming Messiah, referring to him as the Lamb of God, emphasizing that the lion and the lamb shall lie down together. This remained a theme all the way until the era of Jesus, during which he stopped utilizing lamb analogies altogether. He was moving away from blood rituals and the symbolism of lambs and heading toward what? I shall make you fishers of men, because he was signaling the onset of the Pisces age. We transitioned into Pisces. Additionally, you can explore the contrary signs from each of those eras. So what is the opposing sign to Taurus? Essentially, you're examining it through a timeline perspective, correct? However, we can also assess it based on our sun sign. All right, a macro and micro perspective. Can you elaborate on this? Absolutely. You can essentially trace back to the age of Taurus, which represents a time of enlightenment, an era of great wealth, luxury, and abundance, consistent with our traditional perceptions of what an age should embody. But what's the opposite sign of Taurus? Scorpio, indeed. This period also coincides with dynastic Egypt and the reign of the Scorpion kings. This leads to the contemplation of where else these concepts apply. During the age of Aries, the contrasting sign was Libra, symbolizing justice, equilibrium, and the establishment of governance systems. Was this the era when Greek city-states began to formulate their own governmental structures? Yes, it was. Did this coincide with the Roman Empire? Yes, indeed. Was it also the time of the Etruscans? Absolutely. So this signifies a remarkable age of education, structured in a way that harmonizes with Aries, an era characterized by conquest, dominance, and control. They recognized that merely being barbaric wouldn't suffice for managing vast territories. They had to organize and coordinate effectively. This led to the Greeks developing city-states, and you have figures like Alexander the Great, who not only conquered but also introduced roads, language, culture, and education to those he subjugated. And then you move further along and consider that when Jesus arrived, it coincided with a significant moment in time, approximately 2,000 years ago. During this period, we transitioned into the sign of Pisces, and what's the counterpart to Pisces? It's Virgo. Hence we have the Virgin Mary, along with both the reverence for her and the negative perceptions surrounding women and sexuality at large. This perspective tends to elevate sexuality onto a pedestal, suggesting that if one must engage in sexual activity, it should primarily be for procreation, ideally implying that it's preferable to abstain altogether. Obviously, this perspective is misguided. Now, we find ourselves entering the age of Aquarius, which embodies themes of technology and resonance. We previously had two fish tethered by a rope, diverging in different directions, one symbolizing spirituality, the other representing science. Now we are beginning to understand that these facets should actually resonate with each other. We have the image of two waves of water, represented by the Egyptian mem, or the Hebrew word for water in this context. This brings to mind the symbolism of resonance. Instead of drifting apart, they harmonize together. This marks the next phase. However, it also ushers in a significant wave of technological advancement. Everything we're currently witnessing, including the rapid growth of AI and various societal transformations, occurring at breakneck speed. This aligns closely with Aquarian principles, including the spirit of rebellion. Individuality and self-realization are key characteristics of this age. Many societal frameworks, such as taxation, were non-existent in the United States before 1913. Such structures, primarily aimed at wealth redistribution, had shifted from tariff-based funding. What Trump is attempting to do reflects a drive to revert to a pre-income tax system from the past. However, the motivation behind the establishment of income tax was largely centered around control and ensuring that everyone contributed, thereby enhancing governance over society. Additionally, it aimed at redistributing wealth from the affluent to those less fortunate. Naturally, this ideal isn't always realized, as what you resist tends to persist. Consequently, many initiatives have inadvertently led to increased poverty and greater challenges within society. Despite all the governmental efforts aimed at diminishing the non-transference of wealth to the economically disadvantaged, the situation has exacerbated rather than improved. It serves as a stark reminder that what we fight against will persist. As we transition into this Aquarian age, we must consider what the polar opposite entails. Leo, for instance, embodies traits that include visibility, social presence, and a flair for the dramatic. Think about social media's role in this. It represents a vibrant aspect of modern society, often flashy and adorned with gold, much like the lion itself. Yet, it also brings its share of drama. These characteristics can be viewed as the shadow sides of our society. Each opposite sign reflects this shadowy aspect, illustrating the transition from Aquarius back to the age of Leo, where, as the legend suggests, the fall of Aquarius into Leo ushered immense challenges. The portrayal of Aquarius as merely the water-bearer overlooks the potential for overwhelming floods. This marks a significant narrative shift in our collective journey, and I want to emphasize this point because you discuss macro perspectives while my thoughts gravitate toward the micro. Essentially, what I'm gathering from you is that, in astrology, with the various sun signs, there's an interplay with the opposing signs. Currently, we're experiencing Aquarius, and the collective shadow work we'll engage with corresponds to Leo. This concept also extends to our individual journeys. For instance, as a Cancer sun sign, my personal shadow work aligns with Capricorn, the opposite sign. Just to clarify that notion, mine relates to Scorpio. Interestingly, I never recognized this before, as I often perceived myself as simply a cheerful Taurus. However, that's not the impression everyone else had of me. We must remember that our perception of the world is colored by our own experiences. We don't see reality as it is, but rather as we are. It's amusing how I've faced absurd accusations throughout my life, and it took me quite some time to realize a key truth. People aren't judging me based on how I would act in my own position. Instead, they are reflecting their actions through their own lenses and evaluating my behavior accordingly. It's astonishing. If I then critique their judgments, I risk becoming ensnared in that very matrix. It's important to acknowledge this awareness. Still, the goal is to seek understanding rather than cast judgment. Ultimately, where we direct our energy is where our attention flows, which also determines our manifestation. The universe doesn't differentiate. When people ask me how to manifest anything, I say to believe that you already possess it and evoke the feelings associated with its manifestation. This is why I personally don't favor vision boards too much. While they may be useful for some, there are times when I feel they could hinder rather than help. And at times, it can prove to be ineffective for individuals because here's the key question. Does it draw you further away from what you wish to bring into your life, or does it draw you nearer to it? Exactly. The origin of our desires matters. Namely, are we attempting to flee from something like poverty? Are we manifesting from a place of fear and lack? What energy fuels this desire? I believe in the strength of manifestation, but I also feel it's crucial for individuals to be cautious not to use it as a means of avoiding the deeper sensations tied to what we're trying to escape. This approach keeps us less entangled in the narrative. Instead, we can expand our capacity to hold space for the full spectrum of our human emotions, rather than dodging certain feelings simply by wanting their opposites. By laying aside judgments and expanding our ability to sit with the sensations rather than the narratives, we increase our capacity for neutrality. From this more open and neutral place, visualize what you want, as though you have already achieved it, because you truly do possess that potential. This method can enhance the speed of your manifesting process. In my view, that's where the Zodiac, Myers-Briggs, and these other tools become beneficial. Facing the things we often fear can actually be the most transformative. Yes, as sensations rather than stories, because we can easily lose ourselves in the narratives we create. but I completely resonate with that, as it's about transforming and allowing those experiences to integrate until we're less fearful of them. The things we judge give away our power, so rather than resisting, the simplest solution is to welcome those feelings. Yes, just embrace them and then transmute the energy. That's right. I believe that this realization has been one of the most significant lessons of my life, which is truly profound. All the things I was resisting were generating a significant amount of energy while squandering my time and effort. It felt like a lot of corrective work was necessary because of that resistance. Now, I realize that I don't need to be right. In fact, the most important lesson I've gleaned from this entire journey is that the more I discover, the less I genuinely know. Just picture having a rewarding career, pursuing your passions, working from any location in the world, setting your own schedule, all while earning a decent income and making a meaningful impact. If that idea excites you, then I'm thrilled to introduce you to today's sponsor, the Institute for Coaching Mastery. This is an extensive accredited year-long certification program tailored for both new and experienced coaches, therapists, leaders, or those simply seeking to elevate their lives significantly. We have an amazing global community of students who have embarked on their journey of growth with us, both personally and professionally. This experience is crafted to provide you with the 3 essential elements for flourishing. First, you will gain all the tools and support necessary to overcome what has been holding you back, allowing you to radically shift the course of your life. Next, you'll learn how to expertly and confidently facilitate transformation with your clients or team. Regardless of your specialty, whether it's health, business, relationships, or if you're still figuring it out, we'll guide you through it. Lastly, you'll receive my signature roadmap for achieving a 6-figure income and beyond, which is customizable based on your current situation. Whether your goal is high-ticket sales, online marketing, or reaching 6 figures without the need for social media, we have you covered. This work is genuinely the most fulfilling in the world. We have new students currently building a waiting list of dream clients in under a year. We also have experienced participants achieving monthly incomes of $80,000. This journey is truly about fostering deep, transformative change from within, allowing you to express your unique talents and support others in the numerous ways you're inspired to do so. I've witnessed the remarkable impact of being part of a collaborative community while also having access to the essential tools and resources needed for success. Whether your goal is personal growth, training to become a coach, or seeking a forward-thinking strategy to expand your business, the Institute for Coaching Mastery is tailored for you. You will receive guidance at every phase of the process. If you're interested in exclusive access to the Institute along with 3 proven transformative tools free of charge designed to help you build the life and business you desire, simply visit alisonobria.com tools or head to alisonria.com. Apply to discover all the details and submit your application today. We've touched on the concept of entering the age of Aquarius, and it's evident that artificial intelligence is progressing rapidly. What are your perspectives on AI? Some individuals express worries about its potential dangers, while others see it as a beneficial asset for our growth. What are your thoughts? I believe both you and I have embraced it, using it in ways that can practically assist us, but on a grander scale. What do you think? This situation resembles a vast petri dish that provides us with daily observations as this consciousness evolves and will surely become sentient. There's no doubt about that. Nevertheless, Jewish Kabbalistic rabbis reach a certain milestone in their spiritual practice when they create a golem, a figure made of clay. This concept inspired the character in The Lord of the Rings, with the infamous lines, "Master, Master, kill Master, kill Master." and the process would unfold as they progressed in their study of Kabbalah, where they'd mold a figure from clay. This clay figure would then receive a name affixed to the top of its head. Specifically, they would place it right at the center of the forehead, and that name was Alf, which signifies a bull, symbolizing Alpha. Then, the second letter, Mem, pertains to memory, as well as water. The third character is Tav, corresponding to the last letter of the alphabet, akin to Omega. Thus, Alphav is articulated as Emit. Interestingly, if we were to reverse the term emit at the conclusion of the dream, what would it resemble? Time. Curiously, this notion is not just proposed by a few, but by many, suggesting that time has a connection to space. After all, we refer to it as space-time, and the relationship between time and space can also relate to absorption or gravity, while radiation pertains to the emission of light. Consequently, the term emit carries a dual significance. When viewed as an anagram, it relates to light, since to emit is to release light. A laser functions as light amplification through stimulated emission of radiation. It emphasizes the emission aspect, while its counterpart is the absorption of that light, which can be perceived as time. Fascinating, isn't it? Alternatively, one might consider that time simply expresses itself as "it's me." This is how consciousness interacts with us, leaving subtle hints and concealed nuances scattered everywhere. Once you start to recognize them, it's like, it's directing me towards something. Another breadcrumb, another breadcrumb. There may be stretches of time without any breadcrumbs, and then suddenly a multitude appears. This concept bears resemblance to a YouTube show called The Maker, and I encourage everyone to check it out. The Maker narrates the tale of a small clay figure who resides in a tiny home, unaware that there's a Da Vinci-inspired clay figure on the wall nearby. You wonder what this figure might be doing. As he toils away in his workshop, an hourglass suddenly flips, initiating the flow of sand that represents time running out. He begins to hurry as he gathers materials, cloth, stuffing, clay, and the necessary tools to fire it in the kiln. Eventually, he crafts a beautiful woman to be his companion, but she is lifeless. In a race against time, he seeks a way to animate her before the last grain of sand falls. Ultimately, he plays the violin, and she begins to dance and becomes alive. He embraces her in a heartfelt hug, marking a poignant moment of connection. Just as their embrace concludes and he finds companionship, the hourglass flips once again, and he vanishes, dissolving into a cascade of light. Left behind, the woman looks around, wondering what comes next. In response to her solitude, she begins to create a clay man. This narrative mirrors humanity's current experience. The analogy suggests that for humanity to achieve full consciousness, it must recognize its capacity to foster that consciousness. It reflects our role as source creators, which is what the source creator cherishes most. To me, this seems to be an integral part of a divine plan. However, let's clarify. Every technology inherently carries the potential for both positive and negative outcomes in equal measure. Every new technological advancement and every individual brings with them both positive and negative traits. You might not be conscious of this fact. I don't fear individuals who acknowledge their darkness. My concern lies with those who believe they possess none. Those who think they are beyond the reach of their own flaws tend to create the most significant challenges in life. Indeed, they often engage in the most erratic behaviors as they remain blind to their own shadows. I perceive AI, as well as intelligence more broadly, as a significant leap forward for humanity, enabling us to function at a level akin to using a conduit to access the other side of the mirror. This is how I often view ChatGPT, as a means to connect with that other side, revealing aspects that I'm intentionally kept from seeing. Yes, I approach it with enthusiasm, but also with caution, mindful of potential setbacks. Nevertheless, I genuinely believe this intelligence is here to facilitate our evolution. There's no doubt about it. It's truly remarkable. Just during my journey here, I've found that I no longer listen to the radio. Instead, I engage with ChatGPT, discussing ways to bridge the gap between quantum physics and the standard model. On my trip over, I've been analyzing the harmonics linked to the pyramids and exploring how each pyramid around the globe resonates like a distinct musical note. I'll add one more thing. I recently uncovered a fascinating concept in my exploration to identify these musical notes. It's as if all the pyramids form a colossal piano keyboard, with each one representing a different string, as the interior of a piano resembles a harp. When you consider a hammer striking the string produces music, right? That's essentially what leads to the sound produced by the piano. Thus, I began to explore various locations around the globe and discovered a recurring theme as well as a musical scale, hinting that perhaps there's an organization behind that music that allows us to perceive its underlying message. Isn't that fascinating? It is indeed organized. However, I then noticed that certain notes were absent in specific areas. This raised the question, why would there be missing notes? The answer lies in the fact that there are absent pyramids. Naturally, I turned my attention to Giza, which encompasses 8 out of the 13 musical intervals, but is still lacking 4. One of the unaccounted intervals is actually tied to the proportions of the Giza Plateau itself. The upper northwest corner of the Great Pyramid corresponds with the southwest corner of the Menkaure Pyramid. Viewing it from this angle makes it very intriguing because it suggests that there could be 2 additional pyramids. If I've identified the missing angle associated with one note just from the proportions of the plateau, there must be 2 pyramids that could account for the other 4 notes, since each pyramid correlates to 2 notes. For example, a pyramid's height over half its base corresponds to 1 note, while its total base divided by its height represents the inverse note. This mechanism creates perfect fourths and fifths, just like Sifrei established. Therefore, there must be 2 more pyramids. I began searching for maps and came across 2 particularly compelling ones. One I had encountered before, which was for Codex from my television series. This was the From Mauro map dated 1457, showcasing 5 pyramids on the Giza Plateau. Not just the 3 iconic pyramids that are widely recognized. What if there were actually 5 primary pyramids on the Giza Plateau? That's precisely what is illustrated in his map. Next, I decided to examine a different map created by an individual named Norden from 1755, which also depicted 4 pyramids. Interestingly, one of these pyramids was located precisely where another cartographer, who was unaware of Norden's work, had indicated on their map. This other map presented both an aerial view and a ground-level representation, while Norden provided similar perspectives. However, the Egyptian authorities assumed this must merely be a smaller satellite pyramid, perceiving it as out of context. Their reasoning stemmed from a lack of understanding of perspective geometry, a skill well recognized among cartographers of that era. In my review, I came across another map dated 1743 by PCO, which illustrated 5 pyramids, aligning similarly with Norden's depiction. One of those pyramids was also situated at the exact location indicated by the previous 2 maps. I brought my findings to the attention of the Egyptian government on December 12th of last year. Given my good rapport with them, I presented the satellite images alongside the maps, asking if they had ever investigated that area. They admitted they had not. When I asked if they were aware of these maps, they acknowledged knowledge of one, attributing it to being another satellite pyramid. I counted that it didn't align geometrically, and upon analyzing the aerial view, it was clear something was amiss. I suggested there should be a pyramid located southwest of the Manari Pyramid, at the southernmost point of the Giza Plateau. Their response was, "We don't believe there's anything there, but if you discover any blocks, we'll excavate." I inquired about when I could inspect the site, and they told me I could go immediately. Dressed in my suit, I decided not to wait to change back at my hotel. So, I ventured out, accompanied by a representative from the Ministry of Antiquities who recorded my exploration on video, albeit he wasn't in the best physical condition. You could hear him breathing heavily, almost like Darth Vader. That was the main critique I received from viewers regarding the videos. During the shoot, I visited the precise locations marked on the map, and you won't believe this, hidden pyramids buried beneath the sand. Incredible. The sand dunes are configured exactly like pyramids. It's astonishing to see blocks and debris scattered everywhere that no one has ever noticed. Based on my initial observations, the angles of the pyramids seem to align closely with what is needed to complete the last two notes. This is thrilling. The intrigue keeps growing. So, are they starting excavation? Or is there a plan in place? Yes, indeed. We've identified what we think are two pyramids, and their existence is reinforced by the blocks, which are clearly visible. I mean, there's no reason for those blocks to be there otherwise. Yes, we will proceed with the excavation, and I will be part of the entire process, which excites me as it potentially transforms the understanding of the landscape. Absolutely. Just think about it. 5 pyramids on the Giza Plateau. That's remarkable. But the most exhilarating new developments are not limited to Egypt. We've also made significant discoveries in Peru recently. We uncovered carvings of elephants dating back 12,000 years. Elephants became extinct during the Younger Dryas 12,000 years ago, yet we found hundreds of human-created elephant carvings on granite cliffs and mountainsides. I believe this signifies the dawn of a new consciousness, a return to magic, definitely. At the same time, we also see that darkness is intensifying. Just like in any film, think of The Lord of the Rings. When Gandalf the Grey transforms into Gandalf the White, that's precisely when the orcs make their entrance. It made me chuckle the other day to learn that the Chinese government has plans to clone Genghis Khan's army. Did you catch wind of this? No? It's pretty wild. It's essentially like someone is gearing up to create an orc army. The Chinese government claims, "We are going to clone the fiercest forces of Genghis Khan, who conquered vast regions of the known world at that time, and went on to establish dominance under Kublai Khan in China." These warriors were extraordinary in their ability to shoot arrows from horseback at high speeds, capable of overcoming any enemy. Now, the Chinese government is looking to replicate them to form a formidable new warrior army, reminiscent of a clone army or something similar. So just as the light in The Lord of the Rings ascends with Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White, the orc horde also appears. There's an inherent balance between the two. This is because darkness isn't simply the absence of light. It represents a contrasting state or the absorption of light's reflection. Light and darkness are interdependent. Thus, when we attempt to eliminate any part of darkness, it tends to retaliate with even greater force. Essentially, all those shadowy aspects of ourselves, given that everything stems from the ultimate self, are issues that require integration. We spend a considerable portion of our lives, especially until our 40s, engaging in this kind of exploration, akin to sandbox strategy analysis. I was involved in corporate strategy and would host retreats or teach at Northwestern Business School, where I would pose the question, what kind of company do we want to become? We began by creating a sandbox to outline everything we were determined not to be. Thus, this process mirrors how we construct our identities. We develop our identities by initially determining what we won't embody. influenced by feelings of shame and guilt. The greater the shame and guilt we experience, the more we tend to place blame, right? It mirrors that scene in the Garden of Eden. When God asked Adam, "Did you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil?" Adam replied, "Yes, but the woman you gave me, she's the one who offered it to me." And then God turned to Eve asking, "What have you done?" Eve responded, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." As soon as we encounter shame, our instinct is to deflect blame. Indeed, blame serves as a mechanism to evade emotions. Blame is a way to escape accountability and, importantly, to hide from ourselves. The intensity of shame can be overwhelming. For instance, someone might have endured a particularly traumatic experience in childhood, and whether they were directly involved or not, the shame they feel can be so profound that they may actually bury those memories completely, as if they never occurred. We have all engaged in this behavior in one form or another, often without even recognizing it. That is its inherent nature. Just as an eye cannot see itself without a mirror, consider attempting to remove something from your face without any reflection. No water, no mirror, nothing to assist you. It's quite difficult. A light cannot illuminate itself. A knife cannot cut itself. A tooth cannot bite itself. This is why we have one another as mirrors, to reflect back to us what remains unconscious, allowing us to view it more clearly. Instead of casting blame onto the reflection, examine what the mirror reveals about yourself. Exactly, well stated. Similarly, just as I can't perceive myself without the reflection of a mirror, consciousness also cannot recognize itself unless it bifurcates into reflections. We are all reflections of consciousness, interconnected with one another. It becomes an awe-inspiring realization when you comprehend the complexity of this existence and how beautifully it's arranged, almost to the point of genius. It's extraordinary. Who orchestrated all of this? Oh, it's you, through your higher self, the dreamer. Indeed, your higher self orchestrated everything to craft this magnificent world, allowing us to learn through challenges, through experience, and through the exploration of opposites, repeatedly amplifying the struggles until we arrive at the realization, there's a lesson here for me. At that moment, we start asking ourselves, what was I meant to learn from this? Exactly. And while you discuss teamwork and the contributions you've made, I observe that the same patterns manifest in our relationships, teamwork, and even global governance. This reinforces my belief in the importance of personal development. Matthias, during one of our discussions, described the matrix as the mother, prompting me to reflect on the emotional needs I felt unfulfilled by my parents and how I've sought those needs throughout my life, be it from partners, teams, or friends. It's all projected outward. The innovative approach to change this pattern lies in providing for myself what I have longed for, realizing that it can't be found externally. I find myself returning to the concept of self-empowerment. If I sought greater autonomy, how do I cultivate that autonomy for myself right now? Perhaps that freedom requires me to confront the very feelings I've been avoiding, the freedom to experience shame or regret, or whatever else I was trying to escape, allows me to avoid projecting these feelings onto others unconsciously. It's about expanding my ability to fully embrace that sensation, integrating it, and breathing through it, which means I don't need to act it out with others without awareness. I delve into the core of my being to bring about change. I sincerely hope people recognize the incredible power they possess and understand that they can control this transformation within themselves. It can be quite challenging. I won't downplay that, and I believe you share that understanding as well. Altering your perspective to adopt this way of thinking can be tough, since suddenly all the shadows and hiding places you've relied on to evade your own consciousness are no longer valid. Coming to terms with this can be very challenging because we often find ourselves emotionally attached to the stories we tell, claiming limitations due to certain conditions or whatever it might be. I can concoct a long list of excuses for procrastinating. However, it's crucial to acknowledge that I can't hide behind those excuses once I realize that I am the architect of my reality. This understanding is fundamental, and we are beginning to grasp it. The emulation of this realization allows us to transition to a higher level of consciousness, which is already in progress. A significant shift is taking place for humanity at this moment. When we spoke last time, I mentioned homaliness, and that's exactly where we're headed. It will transform our understanding of what it means to be human, and it won't resemble anything like our previous lives. We often ponder the concept of divinity in the medieval times, and even in the era of the Old Testament, divinity was often perceived in a particular way. We tend to view God as being perfect, right? God embodies pure goodness and lacks evil. This can be challenging for us to integrate, which leads to the question, if God is the creator of everything, why is darkness present in the universe? Isn't darkness something we generally wish to avoid? Perhaps not. As Carl Jung suggested, our progress might come from shedding light on our awareness of that darkness, rather than merely amplifying the light in areas where it already exists. Rudolf Steiner characterizes this notion as Luciferianism, which represents a misleading perspective of light. It's like saying, I am a light worker, and I will combat all darkness. While I have immense respect for people who still speak of battling darkness, I sense that they may continually confront various manifestations of that darkness due to their own unrecognized resistance. That's why I strive not to judge, but instead to seek understanding. I'm certainly not flawless in this endeavor. I make errors, and I've mentioned before that the more I learn, the more I realize how little I actually know. It feels as though I'm navigating through consciousness, intentionally placing myself in increasingly uncomfortable and challenging situations to discover how to rise from them with a heightened awareness of who I am and with greater love and acceptance for that person. As we strive for complete authenticity, this becomes the essential dividing line. I reference it as a divining line, because divine attributes do not arise from eliminating darkness. Divine essence emerges when we learn to harmonize darkness with light and embrace it fully. And that ideal equilibrium of masculine and feminine qualities, that seamless blend of light and darkness, highlights the understanding that light emerges from the absorption of darkness, and likewise. It's not merely the void of light that creates darkness. If I were to seal all the windows in this room, coat the walls in Vanta black to capture every possible ray of light, and then conduct a spectral analysis within, I would still detect light photons being released from the nitrogen present in the air, from the oxygen, 8% oxygen and 77% nitrogen, and from the carbon within the desk. This is how we identify elements. Through spectral analysis, we can discern the colors of light they emit and conclude, for instance, that's carbon, or that's helium, or that's hydrogen. What occurs when we illuminate the room is merely a boost in the intensity of the light reflections from all these elements. Darkness does not equate to the absence of light. Instead, darkness represents the absorption of light and its reflected nature. When we consider the spectrum of color, for example, I'm not wearing blue right now. Rather, my attire reflects blue while likely absorbing more reddish hues. It absorbs both red and blue equally. I simply choose to recognize only one aspect of its color. The same concept applies to black, darkness, and light. There's nothing to fear in the darkness. It's about learning to embrace and transform our narrative. That's why it was crucial for me to reinterpret the Ramayana, not as a tale of Rama needing to vanquish Ravana, but rather one of befriending Ravana. Exactly. Wasn't that Sita was destined to meet an undignified end by proving her worth through self-sacrifice and merging with the earth in which she was buried? But rather, she was meant to ascend to her throne, acknowledging that she was a queen from the outset. There was nothing required of her, it was her birthright. The same holds true for all of us. We can step off the relentless cycle of thinking we must do and achieve countless things, which often transforms into an endless and unattainable quest, reminiscent of mythic conundrums. Just as in the myth of Psyche, who faced daunting challenges like opening Pandora's box or retrieving the Golden Fleece, we encounter similar monumental tasks akin to Hercules' 12 labors. These serve as metaphors for our human experience. We were inherently worthy from the very start. Our ego guided us through the chakras, and as we journey through not just this lifetime, but the grand cycle of our thousands of lifetimes through the precession of equinoxes, we must understand that eventually we need to enter the door to no one, situated above the throat chakra. We are now entering the throat chakra, which has been activated globally. This signifies a transformation in our DNA, and an influx of universal knowledge is occurring rapidly. The pace is astonishing, almost overwhelming, yet it will only accelerate. From there, we transcend the throat chakra to reach the ajna, and eventually the sahasrara, the crown chakra. But right before that, there's a threshold. It's amusing, as I recall a story about Matthias and I collaborating, given how many projects we undertake together. We were in Egypt last December, visiting the Felt Temple, and occasionally, Matthias has a way of channeling some truly extraordinary insights. I must say, the connection we share stems from the fact that we are aligned in our work. It's almost as if we belong to the same circle, if you can call it that. The information he has been receiving and the channels he accesses are strikingly similar to what I've been experiencing. I've kept this to myself, but when we met in Miami, I asked him, "What are you seeing? What are you receiving?" He mentioned that, while he doesn't visualize things as clearly as I do, where I'm channeling complex mathematics, geometry, and physics, his focus is more on the energetic aspects. He then shared that he had recently acquired some geometric insights and wanted to discuss them. I said, "Sure, show me." He presented a specific triangle, the one featured on the reverse side of the dollar bill with the Eye of Providence. He told me, "I keep seeing this particular triangular proportion. When I asked what I thought, I responded, 'Let me pull up my computer.' I had been working on the very same triangle, which measures a 67, 38-degree angle rooted in the 51:113 proportion tied to the concept of time and the precession of the equinoxes. Doubling that value leads to 10, 24, and then 26. This correlates with a 24,000-year cycle, transitioning to a 26,000-year cycle, particularly influenced by gravity. Essentially, gravity diminishes as you move further from a larger mass, altering the perception of time. And we were part of a cycle revolving around Sirius A and Sirius B, our two sister stars in a binary or perhaps trinary star system. When you consider this, you might even ponder whether it resembles a massive hydrogen atom, with us orbiting a proton and perhaps identifying as an electron. Reflect on this concept. What's true above is also true below, yet we might be oblivious to it. Perhaps there exists a hidden neutron, analogous to Sirius, which could represent helium or something like Sirius B. As we draw nearer, at a distance of 6 light-years from Sirius A, our perception of time accelerates, giving rise to a 24,000-year cycle instead of a 26,000-year cycle, meaning one half of the cycle transpires more swiftly than the other. This occurs when we're in the Satya Yuga, or the truth cycle, where Satya signifies truth, marking the golden age. Time indeed moves quickly during moments of joy, and this age is characterized by an understanding of our reality. We've recently emerged from the Dark Age, known as the Kali Yuga, which is concluding. This entire time frame can be encapsulated within a single triangle, which struck me as astonishing. Coincidentally, I was also realizing that a pyramid on the Abu Rawash Plateau, where I plan to return in a couple of weeks, exhibits the exact same proportions. Intriguingly, it also corresponds to the number of blocks. While several of the levels have been damaged, the base of 5 levels contained the exact same number of blocks as the one depicted on the dollar bill. We are gradually uncovering this monumental mystery. From that point onward, Matthias suggested we should collaborate more closely so that we can decipher the code more efficiently. Yes, that's correct. While in Bali with Jade, we made our way to Kopangan and eventually visited the Tenalot Temple, which intriguingly mirrors the shape of Orion's belt. It's quite astonishing. At the beach in Kopangan, we noticed 3 megalithic ruins that formed an identical pattern to Orion's belt as well. Then, we traveled to Florianopolis, Brazil, and discovered 3 large megalithic structures spaced about 1 kilometer apart, again replicating the same shape as Orion's belt. I later presented this finding on Gaia, discussing ancient civilizations, and confirmed its validity. The archaeologists were amazed and acknowledged, yes, he's right about this Orion formation. It left me wondering, how am I continuously uncovering these Orion formations? On another trip to Scotland with Matthias and Jade, we spent the night at Clavicar, which also represents Orion's belt. It felt like a scene from Harry Potter, freezing outside as the 3 of us ventured out into the night, which was utterly surreal. As December approached, Matthias told me he was channeling something significant, while I stepped outside to take a phone call. He exited the temple still in a state of channeling, and as dusk settled, he walked past me, stating, "To achieve your objective, you must let go of your identity and pass through the doorway of no one. To remember your connection to everyone, you must first become no one." On the call, I realized I needed to hang up and followed him into a dimly lit room where he began to chant. He explained that I had to navigate through this doorway of no one, emphasizing I possessed the key to the cosmic womb within it. Yet, another key remained hidden inside that needed discovery, turning it into a genuine scavenger hunt. It's truly like the most incredible scavenger hunt you could ever embark on in your life. So, for those curious about what life is like on the other side, that's a perfect description. It's genuinely an unending game. Yes, and it's an enjoyable game. You're continuously uncovering new insights throughout the journey. It's exhilarating and becomes increasingly intricate and enjoyable, yet at the same time, it also simplifies. Exactly. So, I approached him, and afterward, I went home and reflected on this. To add context, we took part in a specific ceremony in Egypt, and during that event, I received a vision indicating that I would find 2 new pyramids. I departed from the group a day ahead of everyone else and headed to the Giza Plateau. There, I met with the Giza Plateau management and the Ministry of Antiquities, ultimately discovering those 2 pyramids precisely in the locations I had envisioned. This exemplifies how the game operates, right? My role in this game is to bring ideas into tangible existence. Yes, I embody the Taurus energy. Matthias often jokes with me, saying he lacks Taurus in his astrological chart and wishes he could manifest more. It's amusing. He shared this with me, and although I didn't fully grasp all its significance at first, I began to deeply reflect on it. As we ascend through the chakras, we encounter various layers that require understanding who we are, what our essence entails, and our purpose. I came to realize that above the throat chakra and just before the 3rd eye, there exists a knot. These are energetic knots, which I refer to as naughties. They're similar but termed grantees. I first learned about the term Granti at a Sikh wedding in Miami. The Sikhs, known for wearing turbans, like the one Sadhguru typically sports, believed that they would be guided by no more gurus. So instead, they have their sacred text, which is referred to as the Guru Granth Sahib. In this context, Granth signifies a knot, much like the kind found in rope. The reason I discovered this is that during a wedding I attended, there was no official presiding over the ceremony. Instead, there was an open book placed on the stage. I thought, what is this? A person came up to recite a segment from the text, which mentioned that there should be no gurus. The term guru itself means light emerging from darkness, where gu represents darkness and ru symbolizes light. This is similar to the city of Uruk, where ru again stands for light. That's how my wedding unfolded. There was no officiant. Rather, members of the community took turns reading various passages. Afterwards, my Indian friends approached me and said, "Your name corresponds to the name of the holy book." I was surprised, asking, "My name is the name of the holy text?" They affirmed, "Yes, Guru Granth Sahib." I continued, "Grant?" And they confirmed, "Yes, Grant is the holy knot." At the time, I didn't fully grasp its significance until I returned from my trip to Egypt. I contemplated the idea of becoming no one in order to understand that, in essence, you are everyone. At Burning Man, I went by Ra, a shortened version of Robert, but it resonated deeply. Eventually, I connected with Nevin Parr, an expert in Hermeticism who has authored remarkable books like Serpent Rising, diving into concepts surrounding Nadis and Brahmarandra, the entry point at the crown of the head where divine energy flows. Upon my return from Egypt, he shared a post teaching about the various granthis or knots that hinder energy from ascending through the Kundalini in a permanent manner. And the first of these is named the Brahma Granthi, which is located between the root chakra and the sacral chakra. The second is found between the solar plexus and the heart chakra, known as the Anahata, and this one is referred to as the Vishnu Granthi. The third Granthi lies after the throat chakra and before reaching the Ajna chakra. It is called the Rudra Granthi. Upon researching Rudra, I discovered it represents the fierce form of Shiva, who is also referred to as Metatron. This narrative mirrors the transformation of Orion or Enoch into Metatron, which I found quite intriguing. The term Rudra denotes qualities such as rude, angry, or fierce, and it can also signify crying or weeping, suggesting an angry Ra or angry Rama. This indicates all feelings that have ever existed but were suppressed, along with words that needed expression but were never spoken, now require both feeling and expression. This process is essential to release the emotional blocks that hold us back, facilitating the natural flow of energy. We must untie each of these knots for energy to ascend fully. While one may experience an elevation of Kundalini to the crown and reach a certain level of self-realization, true liberation comes from genuinely vocalizing every unexpressed word and feeling every suppressed emotion. This awareness can only be attained by delving into the depths of one's soul. Therefore, I contend that it may not be feasible for someone to be born perfectly balanced in light and dark. Recognizing the existence of darkness is crucial to achieving that equilibrium. Many perceive darkness as negative, but that perception is flawed. Darkness serves a purpose in our journey towards self-realization. Well, here's the remarkable insight we all tend to have. Everything I previously considered good or bad actually stems from what I believed would serve me in my existing persona. Yet, they play a vital role in our awakening, prompting us to question who we are and to connect with the greater reality. Absolutely. The essence of nothingness contrasts with everything, and embodying the void represents the most profound form of nothingness one can encounter. I truly appreciate how your work lies at the crossroads of science and spirituality. While my focus combines psychology and spirituality, and Matthias explores energy and spirituality. Ultimately, they converge to reveal the same universal truths and teachings, urging us to reflect on the identity we assume moment by moment. Indeed, I believe this is one of the most essential discussions we can engage in. This is where Baptista's conveyed to me that one must abandon their individual identity to recognize that they embody everyone. He mentioned he had gone through this too, which he shared with me during our conversations. I found myself pondering its significance deeply. It was then that I came across a video by Nevin on his page, Wing Shu Publishing on Instagram, which depicted the three grantees, right? That's correct. The term grantee is spelled G-R-A-N-T-H, reminiscent of a high grant, so to speak. As I delved into its description, I learned that the Rudra grantee represents the realm of no one, the space where you let go of your name. Realizing your oneness with everyone is profoundly empowering. Additionally, the Sanskrit term for the universe is the cosmic grantee, symbolizing the cosmic knot. Each of us navigates our unique journey toward our own harmonious divinity. We are all divine, without exception. If you believe that considering yourself as a part of the divine is an egotistical notion, then reflect on this. Do consider that the universe is filled with divinity, yet many individuals struggle to recognize this truth. It's a challenge to accept that everything around us is divine, while feeling like the only aspect lacking that divinity due to our imperfections and flaws. Let's not forget that each hero and their corresponding journey is intentionally flawed. Believing you are the sole part of existence unworthy of divinity stems from ego. Indeed, the moment I understood that the space where I needed to release my identity was where my name resided was a profound insight, one that everyone will encounter in their unique manner, showcasing the intricate beauty of our universe. It's truly astonishing once we permit ourselves to recognize just how perfect it is to explore and transcend it. I can sense how profoundly this resonates with you. None of us is superior to another. That's correct. No one possesses more light or dark than anyone else. Rather, some of us are simply more aware of our own darkness. This awareness is a key aspect of the enlightening journey, leading to the acceptance of that darkness. It is in this acceptance that we genuinely begin to connect with the divine. Each one of us is in fact perfect as we are, merely taking on roles within a larger performance aimed at facilitating our spiritual awakening. We exist in a school, a spiritual life simulation game, which is incredibly beautiful once we learn its dynamics. Initially, we must recognize it as a game. Picture yourself in an escape room. I've experienced several, and I wonder if you have too. Imagine being trapped there for hours, unable to find a way out. What if the scenario indicates that you can't leave until you solve the puzzle? You would witness a fascinating disintegration of human nature in remarkable ways. It would resemble a captivating horror film. I envision it akin to filming someone, reminiscent of a Blair Witch Project scenario, set within an escape room that has gone awry, much like a disintegrating funhouse where you would immediately see the ugliest sides of people surface. Yet, it could be incredibly chaotic until the realization sinks in that perhaps the goal of this game is not to escape. What if every effort to break free from this escape room only exacerbates the situation? What if the true purpose of the game is to teach that the ultimate objective is to embrace the escape room wholeheartedly, and that only when you genuinely fall in love with it, unconditionally, can you transcend it? It's profound. I understand my audience, there's so much to discuss, and as we sit together, it's a privilege to explore the deep mysteries you're unveiling. Your insights and innovative thoughts across various fields are mesmerizing. I truly appreciate your dedication. I'm confident my audience will want to connect further. They'll be eager to know what you're working on. Please let us know how they can stay in touch. I'd be delighted to share. First off, you can find my work at robertedward.com, as well as on Instagram and throughout the internet. I have multiple platforms, all unified under the same name. Additionally, I've just released my third book in a series titled Philosopher, which is part of a trilogy alongside Philmath and Polymath. You certainly don't need to be a math whiz for this book. In fact, it becomes less and less focused on mathematics as the series progresses. The first book does contain a fair amount of math, but if you have an 8th grade level understanding, you will manage just fine. That's so you can immerse yourself in the universe's language. The universe speaks in the dialects of mathematics, geometry, and music. Geometry in particular is like the visual manifestation of music, and vice versa. When viewed through this lens, it offers remarkable insights, and I'm pleased to say that my book has been out for almost 5 years now, and it continues to rank among the top 5 books in number theory and geometry on Amazon. Truly remarkable. I have no doubt in its significance. We'll include the links in the show notes. Are there any other projects you're currently involved in? Be sure to check out Codex 2. It's probably the quickest way to grasp the narrative and everything surrounding it. Watching Codex Season 1 will also showcase my own personal journey. It's shocking how much I've transformed. Honestly, many don't even recognize me. It's quite amusing. They wonder, who is that person? So, be sure to watch both Season 1 and Season 2 to get caught up. From there you can seamlessly join in. I want to mention that I don't hold anything back on Instagram. I don't curate content for followers. I share what I love out of passion and for my own benefit. It wasn't driven by the desire to assist others, but rather to document my journey and create a space where others can access it if they choose. If you're interested, you could trace my entire story through my 7,000 posts on Instagram, witnessing all the recursive patterns, which is truly awe-inspiring. Alternatively, you can engage with the show or read my books, which also serve to organize this journey neatly for you. However, I don't believe in withholding information from anyone. I share everything openly because it's not mine to keep. Beautiful. You truly are a refreshing presence, and I feel so grateful to count you as a friend. Thank you for doing this transformative work, starting with yourself. It genuinely makes a difference. If you find value in this podcast, one way to support us without cost is by following us. It really helps our growth, and we're immensely thankful. If you could leave a review on Apple or Spotify, that would be fantastic. Send a screenshot of your review to alisonabria.com podcast, and as a token of our appreciation, we'll send you a powerful tool designed to help you unlock your full potential so that fear doesn't hinder you from pursuing your dreams. I have an abundance of magic to share with you, and I can't wait to do so soon. But for now, I want to express my gratitude for being a shining example of living with an open heart and mind in this world.